All right, Jesse on fire. Welcome back. Oh, sorry that we're doing this angle. It's a long story. I've got parent-teacher night tonight, and that somehow equates to it's related. It's related, you guys. Anyway, but we're going to talk about Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou because apparently they're going to fight in December, according to the UFC. And they also said that it'll be the last fight on Francis's deal. You know, Francis Ngannou, the last fight on his contract. Wait, what? Did you say the last fight on his contract? Yes, this will be the final fight of his contract. I feel like there was something public about the last fight being the last fight on his contract. Those reports were unsubstantiated fake news. We got NewsGuard to look into it, and it's fake news. Did you? Because I'm pretty sure that everybody validated that. Like, he fought his last fight, and he's going to be a free agent in December. Coincidentally, when you're trying to push him to fight. Like, I don't know. Is Francis agreeing that he has another fight on his deal, or what exactly is happening? I'll tell you exactly what I think is happening, you guys. I'll tell you what I think they're doing. I think, how I think this is going to play out, and we'll go from there because I have some insight, some hypotheses, etc. But anyway, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. If you want to support this channel, if you really want to support this channel, you don't need to do anything special. All you need to do is go buy a pair of sheath underwear. Since it's 100 degrees, it's going to help you out. I promise. It's the bomb. And then send me a receipt of you using FIRE20 as your promo code. And then I also will enter you to come into the, raffle to come on the show and interact with me live. And we'll do a quiz show. And I still owe you guys the one from last month. And that is going to happen already. The shoes are on the way to the last winner. And we go forward. So sheathunderwear.com. Use promo code FIRE20. Everybody will be happy, including me and Sheath and you and everyone else. All right. So Jon Jones wants to come back. Now, let me tell you one thing that I think is really notable, right? Like Jon Jones is one of the parts of this equation. Francis Ngannou is part of one of these. What? Good God, man. Start over, Jesse. I'm not. We have parent-teacher night. I told you guys I can't start over. That's why we're recording like this. Anyway, so like you got a few different parts of the total package. My God, man. I really would have started over. Like if you guys think it's funny, like when I like fumble over my words and then don't start over, then put that in the comments because 99 out of 100 times I would have just started over by now. But anyway, yeah. And go ahead and like the video too. Let me just keep asking you for things and I'll never talk about what we're going to do. So Jon Jones is one part. Francis Ngannou is another. The UFC is another, right? So you got three main, kind of components to this. And then you got, Stipe Miocic also, who's kind of in the mix, is like, okay, well, if you don't do this, what are you going to do that? So you got a handful of components. Now, historically, who has been the least reliable component of this package, right? Like where you're like, okay, well, they're saying that this person is going to fight this person, okay. It's like, well, we know the UFC wants to make that fight. Solid. Okay, we know like Stipe's probably down to fight Jon Jones, right? Solid. Yeah, I feel like there's another part of that component. It's like, oh, well, I mean, the fight is going to happen in Vegas. So, Vegas, T-Mobile, solid. I'm like, no, not that. Is there any part of the fight you're not thinking of? They're all, I'm sure they'll be able to get refs and judges. No, not that. Anything else? They're all, gosh, I don't know, Mal. What about Jon Jones? I'm just saying, like, yeah. I mean, Jon Jones probably a pretty critical component to that big fight. Like, what do you think about him? They're all, honestly, I have no idea. It's like, yeah, I know. Like, that's not a stable part of this future hypothetical fight, is it? But then, now, the tables have turned, darkness. All of a sudden, Jon Jones is the guy who's like, yeah, I'm ready to go. He's commenting, like, I heard the Francis fight is back on the table. I'm ready to go. December, let's do this. It's like, I'm sorry, did Jon Jones just in totally coherent and stable fashion, he's just like, let's go, I'm ready to go? Because that's exciting, right? That's exciting. So what are we doing? They're all, well, he's going to fight against Stipe. And like whatever happened between that announcement and what's coming out now in the last 2 days clearly did not go in the direction the UFC had hoped, because now they're like, never mind. This will be the last fight on Francis's deal. Now, here's the thing about that. So there are two things they might be doing, right? Because I know that was the last fight on his deal. Okay. I know it. I know that Francis did not have another fight on his deal, as is being implied by the way that this is being worded. I will say this. I didn't hear Dana say this personally. I didn't hear Hunter say it personally. So it's possible it's being kind of lost in translation where they say like, this will be his last fight or something. Like this will be Francis' last fight in the UFC. And they're like, oh yeah, it'll be the last fight on his deal. I don't know. Okay. So I'm not like, I am operating under what I read, which was this would be the last fight on his deal, which implies that this is the same deal that he was on when he fought with Cyril Gane. I can tell you that ain't accurate. Okay. That's not true. But nonetheless, that doesn't mean the UFC didn't say it, you know, because this is a propaganda game. We talked about this about the Nate Diaz one, you know, like, oh, are they setting Nate Diaz up to, you know, ruin the whole show? This is the game. This is the game, son. Like this is the game you're playing. It's strategy, publicity, PR, etc. So if the UFC said this will be the last fight on his deal, and let's say they do have a potential fight with Francis and Jon Jones at the end of the year, let me tell you what that means, okay? Let me tell you what my hypothesis is, at least, is they may have gone to Jon Jones and Markel, and this I do not know. I am telling you this. I've called Markel 3 times in the last couple of days. I can't get a hold of him, so I don't know anything. But I'm hypothesizing that maybe they talked to Francis and management, etc., and they offered them the Jon Jones fight, which I know they're very interested in, right? And maybe they made him a special contract offer for that particular fight, maybe a 1-fight deal as an example, right? Now, they never do this normally, right? The UFC never does this. No one ever gets a 1-fight deal. They lock them in, okay? But maybe in the event that it's Francis, they're going to offer him a 1-fight deal because ultimately what that does, I mean, it costs him a lot more money, right? Because the last fight was $600,000 they paid him, but it costs a lot more money for this one. But let's say they're going to pay him, I don't know, a guaranteed $6-7 million. I don't know, $8 million, 9, 10, 20, fucking $50 million. Doesn't matter. Whatever. They're going to pay him this for this fight. But ultimately, it puts them in the same position that they were in when he was fighting Cyril Gane, which is they want him to lose. Okay. He wants to go fight on the open market. Again, this is not about Francis. This is not personal towards Francis. This is not personal from the UFC or at the UFC. This is about business. And these fighters, while being humans who have families, etc., are just assets as it relates to the business side of this. And so if someone like Francis, the heavyweight champion, fights the end of his deal, gets the end of his contract, goes into free agency, and makes a fortune when he fights Tyson Fury, I can't stress to you how much that changes the dynamic for the UFC, because the UFC now is facing all these sunset clauses. The reason why Francis is doing this because he has a sunset clause. The reason why Nate Diaz can do what he's doing because he has a sunset clause. Sunset clauses are new. This is not a thing that had existed before. Okay, so if Francis goes in and fights Tyson Fury right now, as he could, right, as he could, he will make a lot of money, and there's no reason why his team will keep that private. And so when Kamaru and any of these other big stars find out that he made that much money for boxing, what do you think they're going to be doing? They're going to be like, when's my sunset clause? All of them. All of them. And so it is critical. If I'm not connecting the final dot for you well enough, because I just assume you can get from what I just said to what that implications will be, what it means is that you will have all the UFC stars, or not all of them, maybe not all of them, but lots of them, or at the very least, all of them are at risk of just kind of going, wait, when's my sunset clause? They're all, it's in 18 months. You're like, all right. And then they look, they project their future earnings if they get out of their contract and they have this offer, that offer, whatever. And they look at what the risks are given the fights that are in front of them. And they're looking for reasons not to fight. Okay. And they're looking for ways out of their UFC contract instead of looking for how they can, solidify their relationship with the UFC. And that has wide sweeping, potentially catastrophic impact on the UFC's business. Okay. So if the UFC can get Francis to sign on for one more deal to fight against Jon Jones, they basically are back in the same situation they were with Cyril, hoping that he loses so that he can't do a Tyson Fury big external money fight. Okay. Now, in addition to them being concerned about him getting a big payday, they also don't want their heavyweight champion to go get worked over by a boxer. Okay. That's a bad look. He's the baddest man in the world. And then they see him go get knocked out by Tyson Fury without much effort. That's a bad look for the UFC. It's bad for the brand. They really don't want that fight to happen. They really don't. Even though there's lots of money to be made, if they co-promote it, they don't want it for that reason. And if they co-promote it, then they're going to have everybody asking to get co-promoted, right? There's every reason for them to not want to do that fight. So if they do set this up, then they hope Jon Jones beats him. And then there's like a super fight. You can't even beat fucking Jon Jones, pal. So it's a huge risk for Francis to take it. So they'd have to pay him a lot. But if Francis beats him, if Francis beats him, and especially if he KOs him, then what does that do for the Tyson Fury fight? There's a lot of upside there too. So if they're playing it like that, let's get one more shot at him. They look like, hey, all right, fine. You win. Let's just do a special deal. We'll just do a one fight deal. It's going to cost us a lot of money. I mean, it will. And yeah, so Francis wins too. But the reason they're doing it is because they're hoping that he loses so that he can't promote a big fight with Tyson Fury. Okay. Anyway, so in the event that that's what they're doing, do you think that they want the UFC fighters to know that? Do you think that they want them to think that he's still under his original contract? Because, again, they don't want people fighting to the end of their deals, right? They would prefer, oh, yeah, it's the last one of his deal. Oh, it's a confusing thing. And with Nate, he's got the sunset clause in October, and they've been trying to hide that from him forever, apparently. Or, I don't know about that. I'm speculating. But again, my guess, if they really are saying it's the last fight of his deal, is that they're potentially going to negotiate a one-fight deal for Francis to give themselves one more chance at him getting beat, especially by a guy like Jon Jones, who has a multi-fight locked-in thing with the UFC. Maybe they give him, I'm sure they'll give him like a special, payout for this fight, but he ain't going nowhere. He's not going to do it in a Tyson Fury fight. He's under contract. So now, as a fan, give me that fight. Give me that fucking fight. Give me that fight. Now, as a friend to Markel and their team, to Francis and Eric and all these guys, which would I rather see? I would rather see whichever one they want to do. Whatever they want to do. I would love to see them get paid, son. And they can get paid in both situations, right? But as a fan, which would I rather see? Tyson Fury versus Francis in boxing with MMA gloves? My idea for the 100th time. My fucking idea. Or would I rather see Jon Jones versus Francis in MMA? That is a no-brainer. And it's the latter. I would rather see them in MMA, Francis versus Jon Jones, and I will go to that show. I'm going to this show, too, this weekend. Look forward to seeing some of you guys there. Anyway, that's what I think is going on. And I wonder what happened with Stipe. I wonder if Stipe was like, listen here, pal. You've had me on the sidelines long enough. I'm not going to just jump because you say jump. I actually have no idea what's going on there. I'm just happy that we're going to get to see Jon Jones fight. Anyway, that's what I've got. I love you guys. Peace.